So Mentality Meets, welcome and thanks for joining us. Today we are going to be looking and spending time with Emi Howe and talking all things mental health. So Mentality Meets is all about the ability to talk about our mental health in this current lockdown of COVID-19. I hope everyone is doing all right, to be looking after yourselves, staying safe, and I hope you just manage to take 30 minutes out of your day and can enjoy this time together. So my name is Peter Larkum. I created Mentality, and Mentality is all about understanding our base level of normal in the context of our mental health. What is normality? Well, we've got lots of people already waiting in the waiting room, so let's let them in and we'll catch up in a second. So Emi Howe, how do I pronounce your surname? Emi Howe. Howe. So sorry. Emi, welcome.
Went through me with the...
Today it is all about you. So can you just give us a little bit of an introduction, a little bit of a breakdown of who you are in the context of your world and this fantastic time of COVID-19?
Okay, so I run Body Quality, which is an initiative to increase awareness around the problems that a negative body image has on us as individuals, but also as a culture in the workplace. I do a lot of research. I've done a lot of kind of campaigning about, the unreal standards that we're made to kind of try and meet. In terms of this current situation, I am at home with my two kids. I'm homeschooling them, and it's come at quite a time where I'm able to be creative with some of the work that I'm doing in terms of, I've updated my website. I'm working on my new course that's going to be coming out soon. It always was coming out soon. So I've had things to do, which has really helped me.
No, brilliant. No, thank you. And so everybody else, just give us a bit of a wave. But what I would like to do is just get to meet your chat button at the bottom of your screen. So at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to see a little chat button. And that is for the opportunity of you to ask questions as we go through this time together. And also to comment on what's being shared. And if we manage to get the time and I have the technological ability, I'll try and unmute you so you can actually verbalize your question as we go through. So just going to take a moment and chat on the chat line and just say hi. And I would like to know, what am I going to ask you today? In your COVID-19 lockdown environment, where do you go to hide? So where do you go to hide? And if you are living on your own, you probably know where. But if you are with other people and you need some time to yourself, where do you go to hide? So got John Salmon, so hi John. Melissa, so go to the bathroom, go and hide in the bathroom. I've got to say I used the loo. Go to the bathroom. Live on your own, so you don't have to hide from anyone. Imagine hiding from yourself in the context of COVID-19. I just need some space for myself. That doesn't really work. Other people are saying the toilet too. So because I have 3 small children, there's no locks on our doors, on our toilet doors. The reason being is because our downstairs toilet no longer has a door because my 2-year-old locked himself in it, and I had to do the only thing a man can do, which is to bash a door down. I felt very manly after this, but it does mean that there's no locks on any of the doors anymore. So even if I do go and hide, they can still come and find me. So don't want to hide from my husband. I like that, Jan. That's a good place to be. And hide in the kitchen and all other things. I saw a great YouTube video of a lady hiding in her closet or in her cupboard with sweets because she just needed to get some space away from her small people. So brilliant. Well, welcome everyone. Now you know where your chat button is. We should probably get started. So Emi, thanks for joining us. Your whole focus in the context of mental health and the journey of mental health is around body image and am I right in saying eating disorders alongside that, or would you say that that's a separate conversation?
I think there are other people who are more experienced in that area to talk about it. My background is a post-cancer background. So I've lived through various different changes to my body, and it has given me a very different approach to how I feel about it. I have a great deal of respect for it now that I didn't have before my cancer diagnosis. Apart from a certain degree of what's called orthorexia, which is an eating disorder based on trying to do the most healthiest possible thing for your body, like it's basically often wrapped up in well-being. This is something that I and some of my friends will relate to how I kind of behaved after my diagnosis. I was trying to do everything I physically possibly could, and it was not a very happy place to be, if I can be honest. That's my only real experience of an eating disorder. It's been more just about how generalized and normalized it has become to be down on our bodies, to feel negative about them, how societally wise and culturally wise, certainly amongst women, there is a female code where we put them down and we criticize them, we judge other people's bodies. You know, one of the things that for me has come out of COVID-19 is it has exposed what we already knew, which was that we do have an absolute cultural obsession with bodies. You know, I don't know about anyone else in this group, but certainly amongst my friends, there are so many memes going around about how fat I'm going to be when all of this is over, how my clothes won't fit when all of this is over, how I'm gonna, you know, I'm just eating my way through COVID-19. There are so many things like that going on. And of course, that's always gone on in society. One of the things that's kind of quite obvious on social media is that we see a lot more bodies and a lot more food related posts, or at least I do in my circles, than is actually proportionate to my life, which is kind of a skewed way of behaving, really. But we don't realize it's kind of an invisible problem. And without looking at the result, without looking at the research, you don't really kind of get that it is a real problem. You know, fat talk, as it's called, is responsible for depression, low self-esteem, low self-regard, so many different mental health things that can feed into. And also the research shows that you don't even have to be engaging in fat talk. You only have to sort of overhear it almost for those kind of messages to sink in. And of course, it compounds the situation. It creates it more of a narrative where we continue to bash our bodies, we continue to feel dreadful about it. And only when really you really think about it, do you go, oh, actually, maybe that's not the healthiest way of behaving.
So were you on this journey of kind of being kind of body conscious and all of that before the cancer and before the surgery? Or is it something that you have begun to become much more aware of your body in the context of the aftermath of the cancer and the surgery that you went through, and the change of your body and the way that you view yourself and other things like that?
I remember as a teenager reading a magazine, as it was back in those days, and coming across an article which specified how basically the circumference of your legs, what they should and shouldn't be. And I remember at probably age 14 or 15 being kind of like horrified by it and knowing that it was wrong, but also looking at the world around me. And in those days, there wasn't even the words to describe what I'm describing. We didn't have words like body positivity or body confidence or, you know, dysmorphia to a degree. So I remember feeling really kind of conflicted by this, because I knew that my legs would never be that thin, because I would literally have to just starve to get them to that thinness. That's not my body shape. I could lose weight, but even if I did, I wouldn't look like that. So that then gives an impossible standard for the rest of my life. If I choose to keep feeding into that concept that I'm not good enough because my body's not good enough, even though it could never be that way. So it's always been kind of there. However, I would say that the cancer gave me a renewed respect and a renewed loyalty. And I think what it did is it stopped that thing that so many of us have, which is you're not allowed to compliment yourself. You're not allowed to feel good about your own body, your own self. You know, we're such a self-deprecating nation. It feels very wrong to say, do you know what? My body is amazing. It's incredible. Like that, people will just be grating on them because like we just don't do that. But my body is truly, I'm so grateful to be in it. So anyway, what then happened is I went on a journey of a lot of research, and it's just staggering. You know, it doesn't make headlines. It can't, because, you know, so many industries would be brought to their knees if, you know, if the research was kind of more well known. And it's something that I'm really committed to sharing, and, you know, I'm writing a book about it. I do courses about it and talk about it, obviously. But yeah, I just, since then, and since I've garnered so much more knowledge, I now feel even so much more passionate about it. You know, it's something that was seeded probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago, sorry, I'm making myself younger, 25 years ago. But it continues to grow. I continue to find it really, really interesting and reassuring, actually.
I mean, because certainly I can remember the days of Trini and Susanna and the work that they did to really change people's, the way that people viewed their bodies, and the fact that you were allowed to be different body shapes. And then kind of moving forward to Gok Wan, and being happy in our skin, and giving people the confidence to be okay with who they are. And I don't think, I mean, we met not very long ago, and you were actually running a session like this, and I had to admit my absolute ignorance in the context of this whole topic, because I don't really view myself in a negative way, I don't think. I know that I could probably do more exercise and eat a bit more healthily, and I pretend that under here I'm Thor, you know? But then I also have to ask the question of, but why do I have to be? And it's probably because that's what the world kind of says is how you're meant to look. And so I totally get that. But I can remember one thing that you said, which is that most of us gain our body identity and our body confidence in our teenage years, and predominantly the changing room, and kind of beginning to see other people's body shapes and becoming very conscious of our own bodies. Just talk me through that.
So that was something really fascinating to come out of. So I've just been filming a body image awareness program for the workplace, and we interviewed sort of 20 different people. And I was expecting, what I was expecting people to say was there would be kind of lots of people coming out and saying that school was the time that they really struggled the most, or that they got comments, or that they got you know, judged or criticised or discriminated against. Actually, what came out, especially amongst men, is PE, sports, PE, changing rooms, like across the board. Virtually every man we spoke to said, this started for me in a locker room or a PE changing room. And somebody said something. The other thing that's really interesting about what came out was that for many of the people who may have had decades of pain around this subject, decades of pain around how they felt about their bodies, the comment, they couldn't even really remember the comment, or if there even was a comment. That what they're basing their comments on is people's general judgment of other people, not a direct slate of kind of like, oh, you're too big or you're too thin, or it wasn't necessarily so direct. It was just, we all are aware of how culturally we judge people. So the problem for like why the whole kind of off the cuff remark about how much weight we're gaining during this crisis is a problem, because it compounds that narrative. It's interesting. sort of where it stems from.
So some of the comments that are coming through are around the fact that those days still exist, about the thigh gap and kind of the size of our thighs, and that magazines and airbrushing have a lot to answer for. And I love the Dove campaigns. I don't know if you've ever seen the Dove campaigns and how they basically kind of take you from the photo studio and all the photos being taken, and then the makeup going on and everything else, and how they then manipulate it. And just something, I hope you don't mind, but just unfortunately, I don't think many people need to imagine, because whenever I'm delivering something, it's one of the first things that I battle through, not the content, not the dialogue, not the logistics. And Catherine's saying I had to watch my youngest food intake at primary school because he stopped eating because other kids were calling him fat. And this is primary school, you know.
There is a horrible statistic that 81% of 10-year-olds are afraid of being fat.
Wow.
So we think that our generation is struggling. The generations that are coming through are struggle.
And it's interesting that you say kind of generations, because Jan, sorry Jan for highlighting on this, but Jan says I'm 63 and I don't recall the body pressure back then, which means that it is something that we are creating and have created through our generation. And it is kind of flowing into our kids, and the impact that it's having on our younger side of the kids as well, kind of the age of 10, which is really sad in the context of this.
I have a 10-year-old, and the amount of work it takes to have a balanced view for her on this subject is a lot. It takes a lot of work, and she even still comes out with things that I'm kind of, how has society managed to imprint that on you when I spend so much time kind of trying to redress them.
So Liana's just kind of saying about her 10-year-old daughter, and just kind of the telltale signs, I suppose, is what she's kind of saying about beautiful, strong body, and yet often catch her stroking her tummy when she sits down. And Eula saying about regrets all the diets that she went through as a teenager. And I think I'm certainly for I think probably the first time really becoming aware of it in the context of our language, because of what I've heard from you. And again, it's about understanding, for me, just the mass diversity of people that we have. And that if we all look the same, how boring would that be? But how do we allow people to celebrate their individuality, to celebrate the way they look, to be happy and confident? Because the thing is that it's not just about the way you look, because there's something inside, isn't there? There's something inside that governs whether we believe that we are beautiful, I suppose.
It's all wrapped up in our enoughness, for sure. It's that in Alice in Wonderland they use the term muchness, and I've stolen that and I'm using it for enoughness, and it's whether people feel good enough is what it all boils down to, essentially.
Totally.
And the problem is that we've not been given an alternative. People can't see that a different option, because until recently there really hasn't been a different option, or even conversations around, well, maybe we shouldn't be doing this body bashing, maybe there's another way, and maybe that would be healthier. You know, it can have some massively healthy repercussions alongside with it, but until now, you know, the research has stayed kind of very underground, and we have some fantastic resources now. I've got them on my website, but lots of different things, films, books, people to follow on Instagram, you know, lots and lots of different ways of kind of getting more access to a more realistic body view, which is great that we now do have that option.
So we're heading into our last 10 minutes. I can't believe that 20 minutes has already disappeared so quickly. And I just want to throw it out to you as an audience of any questions that you have, or anything that you want to share. There's been a fantastic thread going on. I love what Liana said about the consciously changing our language of how we speak to our children, but also how we speak about our own bodies, and yeah, and just allowing bodies to be okay, with the way you are. And I suppose kind of also wanting to bring it back to what you're saying about people's language at the moment of, oh, I'm just going to spend all my time sat down and eating lots and kind of that side of things. And again, it comes back to, for me, the lack of forethought of, but what about people who can't do the physical exercise that other people can, and disabilities, or who are unable to kind of be getting up and down and going on a daily exercise and other things like that, and how easy it is for us to make such trite statements almost of an expectation that everybody should be this way. And I think there's a lot of that going on at the moment.
There is, and always there is this kind of general talk and general assumptions around bodies, where in actual fact the body is such a personal thing. It's not something that can be generalized. Everybody's body is subject to such different extremes, different lifestyles, different life choices, different genetics, different abilities, and different body shape. Essentially, it's not as if everybody lost weight, we'd all have the same body underneath. We wouldn't. We'd all be different. We'd all have different shapes. But that's not the story. The natural diversity of society is not the story that we're ever fed. And I think one other thing is that for as long as we continue to blame the body, we're not also looking at some of the underlying things that might be going on. Like Jan was saying, most people don't feel good enough, and that maybe presents itself through their bodies. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but actually maybe there's work to be done that we never get to, that deep work, because we just, it's the body, naughty body, I should have a better body, rather than going, actually, where is this coming from? Is it because I'm not feeling good in myself? Is it because I'm feeling bored? Is it because I'm scared? We could be looking at more important mental health issues that might be, might be a result of.
I just seen Marsha's message, and Marsha, I'm sorry to kind of highlight on this, but she says, I'm finding being on these Zoom calls, it really shows my triple chin and it knocks my confidence. And Marsha, I just want to let you know that that's not what anyone else sees. No. And I find it fascinating that we criticize ourselves far quicker than anyone else would actually criticize us. And I think it is so important, as we are talking about kind of coming to terms with this. And Marsha, I think it's a great thing to raise, because actually I have found myself on Zoom more than ever. And so actually seeing myself in this context, if this is something which I struggle with, would actually make me want to do it less. And again, it kind of has an impact on my security. It has an impact on my everything again. And the fact that mental health is all of us. We all have kind of our mental health journey. And for one person, it can be body size and shape. For another person, it can be just kind of that I feel this way, and we've just got to have so much more grace. And someone said, do you think we've lost the ability to be kind to one another? And I have seen so many posts at the moment with COVID-19 of be kind to each other, be kind to each other, be kind to each other, be kind to each other. And yet we still struggle to do it. There is something that if I can pull you down to make me feel better than you, then I win. But actually it pulls me down too, without even realizing. I kind of get caught into this negativity all of the time. And someone else, but I agree with Emi, the medical profession of GPs needs to take a look at the people's holistic process when visiting with the symptoms. Lost the ability to be kind to ourselves is Melissa, and we've lost the ability to be kind to ourselves from Jan. So when we are saying be kind to other people, maybe we need to, it's incredibly corny, but Michael Jackson, for one of the best things that he said was about the whole man in the mirror. Start there. If we want to see a world change, look at the person who is in front of us and begin to love ourselves, so as we can begin to love other people better and be that a little bit more gracious and that little bit more kind. Go on, Emi.
Well, I was just coming back to, we had a great chat, didn't we, off screen beforehand, and we haven't really covered any of it.
It always happens.
We were talking about, well, I was saying about how there's quite a lot of parallels between this current crisis and my cancer recovery, aside from sort of the isolation, the kind of financial uncertainty and burden, the not knowing whether to feel positive or whether it's okay to feel positive, and that's something that I've had to give myself permission to do, to feel good, because I know that there are so many problems in the world right now, and that they're increased, but I can only do what I can do, and me getting anxious isn't helping. And similarly, when I had my cancer diagnosis, me getting anxious wasn't going to help me to heal. It's not going to keep us all healthy. So we have to try, like, we don't have to, of course, but I think it's really helpful to allow ourselves, if we want to feel okay, to feel okay. But also what the cancer diagnosis gave me was a lot of time, like this has, where you can start investigating, exploring different ideas around self-love and self-care, and learning to kind of like yourself. I know that sounds like, again, corny and kind of a bit, a bit out of left field, but actually it's really important that we like ourselves. And maybe to spend some time either journaling around that or learning more about it, or it's actually a bit of an opportunity, as I see it, to do that.
We touched on the whole question of a problem shared is a problem halved, and being able to jump on a call with a friend and to be chatting, or to talk with a partner, or and I kind of threw in, but what about if you are on your own? So living at home on your own, you don't have other people that you can offload this to, or you're a single parent and your time is so taken up with kind of the looking after the kids and doing all of that, and then it's not until you get to the evening and you literally kind of crash out, and then all those emotions begin to kick in. And how do we process that? How do we share that? Because I said, if you think of everyone that you know of in your world, how many of those would you feel comfortable having a deeper, more charged emotional conversation with? And the answer for most people is maybe one or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
3 if we're lucky. And then it's a question that actually, I don't want to offload all of this onto them. And so actually what we're then saying is how do we open the door so as other people can share? So actually it needs the friend to make the phone call first,
Yeah. But then you're also the friend.
Yes.
So it could be that it works both ways. So even if it's just you kind of admitting, I mean, I've spoken on here about how I'm having difficulty sleeping, and that's the way that this is showing up for me. And I sort of mentioned that to a friend the other day, and it kind of it then led into a conversation where it's okay to kind of say, well, I'm struggling a bit with this, or at least then there is like the platform to have that conversation. We are a great nation of stiff upper lip and get on with it, keep calm and carry on, as they say.
Oh, totally. And
rather than
my big kind of button said 10 minute countdown. So we are at 3:30, which means that our official time has ended. So for not wanting to kind of sign everyone off, but do want to say, guys, our official time has ended. And so if you do have to get back to things, please do feel free to sign off and log out. And thank you so much for your time. Emi and I are probably just going to carry on talking until it gets to the final kind of log out 10-second thing. But Runa, I just want to kind of pick up and said, I wonder if we actually have to provide tangible, practical instruction, manual guide. Wow, that's a fantastic load of words. About how we are kind. What does kindness look like? An accessibility thing, and small number of friends, but they're incredibly supportive for what we're needing. They're excellent listeners. And Compassionate Mind by Paul Gilbert is a fantastic read, offered out by Steve. And then Fran also agrees it's a really good book. So lots of people saying good work, and other people kind of logging off and everything else. So I suppose kind of what I want to just ask for those of you who are still here, Una said, is there anything tangible about being kind? And what I'd like to ask is, can you give me one top tip of this evening? What could I do to show kindness to somebody else? What are we talking about? What does kindness look like in this world where I can't come and give you a gift, and I can't kind of do something? Do I actually need to sit down and write a card and post it so as it gets to you in a day or so? You know. So can you give me some ideas? What can I tangibly do to show someone kindness in the context of this lockdown and what we've got going on?
One thing I'm doing is I'm taking my mum an Indian takeaway tonight because we have at the weekend and she's isolated in a village on her own. And I just thought that might be something to help shape her week. My week is quite well shaped and I have quite a lot of, now I realise I've got a routine going, whereas she has not really got that. And so I thought I'd do that for her.
Amazing.
And I'm really every day.
Liana says, ask someone what they need, which is great. I like the idea of kind of making someone a curry. So if you want to make me a curry, Emi, that'd be amazing. Send it in the post and I'll receive it in a couple of days.
Okay.
Bake and take to the neighbours, both of whom are in their late 80s. Cook a nice meal, game of dominoes in the sunshine. Is also being kind to me. And I think that's important, is actually what can we do to be kind to ourselves as well. One thing which I know that I need to do is probably when this phone call finishes is take the boys away from my wife and just give her some of her own headspace. She has been totally on it today. I've been locked up in calls. So, you know what? Any rounding thoughts, final thoughts from Emi?
One thing we talked about earlier was how one of the positives that's coming out of all of this is when we're talking about the elderly, but also when we're talking about people maybe with autoimmune conditions, the full spectrum, this is a lot more familiar to those people. You know, the elderly are isolated an awful lot of the time. If we can get a bit of empathy around how that feels and not just kind of for it, then that must be a really good thing.
Yes. And remembering those who are in this, not because of the lockdown, but because they've been in it for a lot longer. And thinking of those people around us who don't get out very much, who don't have the people around them. So thank you. For everybody who is left on the call, and I'll post this out, because of Good Friday and Easter Monday, the next Mentality Meets, which would be on Monday, we're going to push to Tuesday next week. So I don't know whether I'll just create a new link for that one in particular, but do keep an eye out and do help people realise that it's not going to be happening on that day, just in case they're unaware. But ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. I've been Pete Larkum. That lady has been Emi Howe. Ow. Oh, close.
Ow.
This is my son. Photo bombing right at the end. Hello. Guys, take care. God bless. And bye-bye now. Thank you so much. Log yourselves out when you can.
Bye, guys. There we go.